Hello everybody, today we are going to talk about rivers. So where does all of our water go? Well, if you've ever watched Finding Nemo, you probably know that all water goes to the ocean eventually. Now, why is this? That's because gravity is pulling the water there. Gravity is what influences the direction that water goes. It's constantly moving it downhill. Now, whether that's because it's a mountain with a really steep slope, or it could just be the ground that has a very gradual slope going downward, or it could even be underground. The water can move underground because, as we learned about in our last video, we know that groundwater is constantly moving. So as water moves through the streams and the rivers, over the land or under the land, it will eventually get to the ocean due to gravity. Now, if you've ever wondered why the ocean is salty, this is actually why. As water is moving towards the ocean, it's dissolving a lot of minerals with it. And the minerals all get deposited in the ocean, and that's what gives us salt water. So just a little fun fact for you there. Now we're going to look at the profile of a stream, meaning things that make up a stream. So the very, very beginning of a river is what we call headwater. Headwater is the source of all water. Just like the head is the source of your knowledge, it's the beginning of your body. This is the beginning of a stream. Now, headwater is going to be created based on, I didn't mean to mark through the word, but mountains. So it's going to be based or created from mountains. Mountains are very high, and as we know, as you go up in the atmosphere, you decrease in temperature. And so on the tops of mountains, you typically have a lot of snow or ice. And as that water melts, it will go down the mountain in rivers, and it will open up to other bodies of water and then eventually make its way to the ocean. So the headwater, typically mountains, that is where you have the source of your rivers. Now, when you have a river that opens up to another body of water, that's what we call the mouth. So this is where the mouth is where one stream ends and it opens up to another body. So say you have a stream and then it will open up, and this is the lake. So this area would be considered the mouth. So anytime one stream is ending and it's going into another one, or you can think it opens up into another one, that would be considered the mouth of the river. And then you have little tributaries. So tributaries, if you have your main stream, which we'll pretend this little squiggly line is your stream, tributaries are little teeny tiny streams that come off of the other one. So this would be like your tributaries. They kind of look like veins, the veins you see in your arms. So over here you can see a river that has lots of little streams coming off the side of it. Those little tiny streams are your tributaries. So headwater is the source, typically in the mountains. Mouth is simply where one body of water opens up to another body of water. And then tributaries are small streams that connect different rivers. So let's keep going. As water's moving through streams and rivers, it can cause their shape to change. And typically, the shape that your rivers are going to have is like this picture down here. It looks like a snake. So streams typically have this S shape that go through. And even if you can't see it, say you go look at the Tar River. The Tar River may look like a straight line to you. Well, that's because this straight line right here could be 10 miles long. But in reality, if you go on Google Maps and you find the Tar River and you start to zoom out and you follow the Tar River is very curvy, just like the stream down here is. And that's because of the way that the water's moving. And we'll explain that in just a minute. So rivers, you don't have to write this down, but this is just kind of explaining how all of that connects together. Rivers start at their source and they flow down. As the river becomes larger, it meets other streams, which is called tributaries. And the river will continue to move until it meets a lake, and at that point it's called the mouth because that's where it's opening up. That's just kind of a summary of how it all connects. So as the river moves, it's going to erode sediment. If you remember from our previous unit, when we talk about erosion, we're talking about the movement of material. So as the water is flowing through the stream, it's moving your dirt and your rocks away, and that's why the shape of the river is changing. The sediment gets eroded from one side, and then it gets deposited as it gets moved down towards the end of the river. And where it gets deposited, that's what we call a delta. So a delta is a zone of deposition. So deltas are zone of deposition, simply where eroded material is placed down. If you look at this picture, right down here, you can see your deltas. So you have the headwater, which is the source of the water in those mountains. They go down in your rivers. Here you have little tributaries coming off of it, where one body opens up to another body, like right there. That's what we call the mouth. And I know you can't really see this super well because of the little docery icon that's probably on your screen. But those little piles of land down at the bottom, that's what your delta is. And so as that dirt is getting moved down the river, as the mouth opens up, and when the mouth opens up to the larger body of water, all of a sudden the speed of the water slows down. And once it slows down, that allows dirt and rocks to be deposited. So fast-moving water is moving your dirt. Slow-moving water lets the dirt settle down to the bottom. So, and I want you to really pay attention to this part. When water's moving very fast, it picks up the dirt and it moves it. As soon as you have the mouth of the river that's opening up to a larger body, it's no longer being forced and funneled through a small area, so therefore it all of a sudden slows down. And as soon as it slows, all the dirt and the sand it was carrying, it can deposit, and as it deposits, it's creating what we call deltas. So deltas are a zone of deposition that's typically formed in the mouth of the river, and why it forms in the mouth of the river is because that's when the water slows down, and that slowing down is really a key thing to understand. So let's keep going. When you're looking at how your sediment deposits, whether it's on the sides of the riverbank or in deltas, the larger sediment is always deposited first. So the larger rocks or sand, because they're heavier, they're going to fall down to the ground quicker. When your tiny, smaller things of sediment such as clay and silt, they take time going down, and so it goes the largest to the smallest, kind of like a snowman. It has the largest snowball at the bottom and the smallest one at the top. So that's the order that it deposits down in the river. So when rivers are moving, as they erode, they start to create the meandering shape. Goodness, I can't talk. So the meandering shape. The meandering shape is that curvy shape. That's S or snake shape we talked about earlier. So all rivers will begin to meander, and this video really is what you need to watch. It's linked down there, but it does a really good job of explaining and showing how this occurs. It's a short little video that's probably less boring than listening to me talk, so I would recommend watching it. But basically, as that water is moving, it will erode away a weaker zone, and that's what causes the riverbank to go away. And then as the river's moving, it slings your dirt and it settles it down on the other side, and that makes a deposit, and that causes a curve. And then it slingshots the water, and it just zigzags, creating this S shape. And I know that was a horrible explanation, but when you go back and watch the visual that video linked in the meandering stream shows, that will be the best way for you to understand it. So I do recommend that you go and you click on that link and watch that video if you didn't understand the little explanation I just gave. So meandering stream is a curving or S-shaped stream. Now would be a great time for you to work on chunk 1 of your study guide. Now, please, please, please try to fill out your study guide the best you can without looking at your notes first, and then go back and fill in things that you didn't know. You need to see what it is you do remember and what you don't remember. Even if we are not at school, or even if I am not with you, it's important that you are still learning, because you are responsible for your education. That will affect you later on. So make sure that you are giving it all the effort that you can. And I'll go ahead and end this video so you can work on the study guide.